Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars streak past the viewport. His dark eyes scanned the control panels as his crew worked at their stations. The ship was on a routine patrol, far from Earth, far from home. It had been 3 months since they left human space, and everything had been quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Hannah said from her station. She was the first officer, and Tay trusted her instincts more than his own sometimes. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display, pulling up data streams. Tay walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "A distress signal, very weak. It's coming from the edge of Council space." Hannah's face grew serious as she read the information. "Sir, it's a Velnari signal. Multiple ships. They're calling for help." The Velnari were one of the peaceful species in the Galactic Council. They looked like tall, thin beings with gray skin and large eyes. Humans had met them only a year ago, when Earth finally joined the Council. The Velnari had been kind to humans, even when other species called Earth a death world and looked at humans with fear. "Put it on speaker," Tay ordered. The bridge filled with a crackling voice. The translation system worked quickly, turning the alien language into words they could understand. "This is Colony Ship Group Delta 9. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. The Krith are here. We have civilians, families, children. Please, anyone, help us. We have no weapons, no defense. They're cutting through our shields." The voice broke apart into static, then came back. 180 ships, 4,000 people, please. Someone help." Then silence. The bridge crew turned to look at Tay. Every face showed the same expression. They all knew what this meant. The Krith were raiders, insect-like creatures that attacked weak targets. They took prisoners, stole resources, and destroyed what they couldn't use. They were the monsters that made species huddle behind strong defenses. Hannah pulled up more data. "Captain, I've calculated the position. The colony ships are 2 hours away at maximum speed, but—" She paused, her jaw tight. "The Council fleet is 6 days away. By the time they arrive, those people will be gone." "How many Krith ships?" Tay asked. "Sensors show at least 15 raiders, maybe more." Hannah looked at him directly. "Sir, we're 1 ship. We can't fight those numbers." Tay thought about the voice on the transmission. He thought about 4,000 people waiting to die. He thought about children crying in the dark while monsters tore through their ships. He remembered why he joined the military. It wasn't to patrol empty space. It wasn't to arrive too late. "Sung," Tay called to the chief engineer. The man looked up from his console. He was older than most of the crew, with gray in his hair, but his hands were steady and his mind was sharp. "Can you get more speed out of the engines?" Sung smiled just a little. "I can give you 120%, maybe 130 if you don't mind some shaking." "Do it." Tay turned to the weapons officer, a young woman named Quan. "Check all weapon systems. I want everything ready to fire the moment we drop out of hyperspace." Quan nodded, her fingers already moving across her controls. "Yes, sir. Loading all missile tubes now." Tay then looked at Yuna, the Marine commander. She was standing near the back of the bridge, as she always did during patrol. Yuna was shorter than most humans, but she was built like a fighter. Scars marked her arms, and her eyes were hard. She had seen combat before. Real combat, not simulations. "Yuna, get your Marines ready. Full combat gear. If we need to board those Krith ships, I want you prepared." "Yes, sir." Yuna smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for a fight. She turned and left the bridge, speaking into her communicator as she went. Hannah stepped closer to Ty, lowering her voice. "Sir, this is dangerous. We don't know if we can win this. The odds are against us." "I know," Tay said quietly. "But what are we supposed to do? Let them die because it's dangerous? That's not why we're out here, Hana. That's not who we are. Hana looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. I'll plot the fastest course. Tay raised his voice so the whole bridge could hear. Listen up, everyone. We're going into combat. The enemy has more ships. They probably have more firepower. The smart thing would be to wait for backup. But those people don't have time for smart. They need help now, so we're going to give them help. We're human. We're from Earth. And people from Earth don't abandon those who need us. The crew responded with determination on their faces. They knew the risks. They knew they might not come back. But not one person asked to turn around. Not one person suggested waiting for someone else to handle it. Helm, set course for the Velnari colony ships. Maximum speed, Tay ordered. The pilot, a young man named Minho, grinned as he adjusted the controls. Course set, Captain. Engaging hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The horizon's edge jumped to faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into long lines of light. The ship vibrated as Sung pushed the engines beyond normal limits. In the engine room, alarms were probably flashing red, warning that the systems were running too hot. Sung would ignore them. He always did when lives were on the line. Tay sat in his command chair, watching the timer count down. 1 hour and 50 minutes until they reached the colony ships. Less than 2 hours to prepare for a battle they might not survive. Around him, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. Hana coordinated with tactical. Quan ran final checks on the weapons. The medical officer, a woman named Nari, would be preparing the medical bay for casualties. Down in the Marine quarters, Yuna would be briefing her soldiers, checking armor, loading weapons. This was what they trained for. This was what humanity brought to the galaxy. Not advanced technology, not superior weapons, but the simple, stubborn refusal to let others suffer when they could do something about it. The Krith had no idea what was coming for them. They had probably never fought humans before. They would learn today what it meant to attack the innocent when a Deathworld species was nearby. Tay allowed himself a small smile. The Velnari had called for help. Humanity was answering, and the Krith were about to discover why Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, the most dangerous category in the known galaxy. The timer kept counting down. The horizon's edge flew through hyperspace, racing toward battle, racing toward impossible odds, racing toward people who needed them. That was enough. The horizon's edge dropped out of hyperspace into chaos. Tay's eyes widened as the scene appeared on the view screen. Everywhere he looked, there were ships. The Velnari colony vessels were large and slow, designed for families and cargo, not for war. They floated in space like wounded animals, their shields flickering and failing. Around them, like wolves around prey, the Krith raiders attacked. The insect ships were smaller but fast, darting in and out, firing weapons that tore through the colony ship's weak defenses. Tay could see the damage even from this distance. Hull breaches, fires burning in the vacuum, bodies floating in space. How many Krith? Tay demanded. Hana's voice was tight. 19 ships confirmed. They've already destroyed 6 colony vessels. Casualties estimated at 400 dead, sir. 400. Tay felt anger rise in his chest, cold and sharp. 400 people dead, and the Krith were still attacking. Still killing. Sir, incoming transmission from one of the colony ships, the communications officer said. Put it through. A face appeared on the screen. It was a Velnari, his large eyes filled with fear and hope mixed together. Human vessel. This is Captain Thalos of the colony ship Gentle Dawn. Please, you must run. There are too many of them. Save yourselves. Don't die for us. Tay stood up from his chair. Captain Thalos, this is Captain Tay of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We're not running. We're here to help. Tell your ships to move into a tight formation. We'll cover you. Thalos looked shocked. But you're only one ship. You can't possibly... Watch us. Tay said, and cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. "Battle stations! All hands! This is not a drill! We're going in!" Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Every crew member strapped into their seats or grabbed onto support rails. This was it. This was real combat. "Minho, take us in! Full attack speed! Ignore the safety protocols on the turns!" Tay ordered. The pilot laughed, actually laughed. "Finally! Hang on, everyone! This is going to be rough." The horizon's edge surged forward. The ship moved faster than any Velnari vessel could dream of moving. Humans could handle acceleration that would kill most species. Their bodies were built for it, evolved on a heavy-gravity world where everything was stronger, faster, more dangerous. Minho threw the ship into a turn that pulled 12 times Earth's gravity. The crew felt it, felt the weight crushing down on them, but they endured. Their bones didn't break. Their organs didn't fail. This was normal for a species from a death world. The Krith noticed them now. 5 raider ships broke off from attacking the colony vessels and turned toward the horizon's edge. They probably thought one ship would be an easy target. They were wrong. "Quan, fire at will," Tay said calmly. The weapons officer smiled. Her hands moved across her controls with practiced speed. Missiles launched from the horizon's edge, streaking across space. The targeting computer tracked multiple enemies at once. But more than that, Quan herself tracked them, her human reflexes faster than most alien species could manage. The first missile hit a Krith raider dead center. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The second missile clipped another raider, tearing off one of its wings. It spun out of control, crashing into a third ship. 2 more kills. "3 down," Quan shouted. "Reloading tubes." The remaining Krith ships opened fire. Energy blasts and projectiles shot toward the horizon's edge. Minho twisted the ship through impossible maneuvers, dodging most of the incoming fire. The shots that did hit were absorbed by the shields, making the ship shake. "Shields at 80%, Hana reported. "All systems nominal." More Krith ships were turning toward them now. They were realizing this human vessel was a real threat. Good. Better they focused on the horizon's edge than on the helpless colony ships. "Sung, I need more power to the weapons," Tay called into the ship's communication system. From engineering, Sung's voice crackled back. "I'm already pushing 140% on the reactors, Captain. Give me a minute and I'll get you 150. 150%. Most ships would tear themselves apart at that power level, but human engineering was different. It was built with redundancy, with the assumption that everything would be pushed past its limits, because humans always pushed past their limits. On the view screen, Tai watched as another Krith raider exploded. Quan was getting better with each shot, learning the patterns of how the enemy moved. She was hunting them. "Captain, the Velnari ships are forming up like you ordered," Hana said. "They're moving away from the combat zone." "Good. Minho, keep us between the Krith and the colony ships. We're the shield now." "Yes, sir." The horizon's edge dove through the battlefield. Behind them, the Velnari ships slowly moved to safety. Ahead, the Krith raiders swarmed like angry insects. Tay counted them. 16 left. Still bad odds, but better than 19. "Sir, 3 Krith ships are trying to flank us," Hana warned. "They're going around to attack the colony ships from the other side." "Yuna," Tay called. "Do you see them?" "I see them, Captain." Yuna's voice was calm, almost cheerful. She was down in the hangar bay with her Marines. "We're ready for boarding action. Take the fight to them. Launch when ready." "With pleasure." Through the ship's internal cameras, Tay saw Yuna and her Marines climb into their assault pods. These were small armored capsules designed to shoot through space and punch through enemy hulls. It was dangerous. It was insane. It was exactly the kind of thing humans excelled at. The pods launched. 50 Marines in 50 pods shot across space toward the 3 Krith ships. The raiders tried to shoot the pods down, but they were too small, too fast. One by one, the pods crashed into the enemy hulls and tore through. Inside those ships, the Krith were about to learn something terrifying. Humans weren't just good at ship combat, they were even better at close-quarters fighting. They were persistence predators, evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They were pack hunters who coordinated with each other perfectly, and they were from a world where everything wanted to kill them, so they learned to kill back. Marines are inside the enemy ships, Hana reported. Yuna's team is broadcasting. Do you want to hear it? Put it on speaker. Let the crew hear. The sounds of combat filled the bridge, gunfire, explosions, yelling, and underneath it all, something that made even Tay smile. The Marines were singing. They were singing an old Earth battle song while they fought. On the view screen, one of the Krith ships suddenly went dark. Its engines cut out. Its weapons stopped firing. Yuna's voice came through, slightly out of breath. Raider 1 is secure. Moving to Raider 2. The Velnari and their colony ships must have been watching in disbelief. One human warship was fighting off an entire Krith raiding fleet. Human Marines were boarding enemy vessels and capturing them from the inside. This wasn't how space combat usually worked. This wasn't civilized warfare. This was human warfare. And it was terrifying. Sir? The Krith are pulling back, Hana said with surprise in her voice. They're retreating. Tay watched as the remaining Krith raiders broke off their attack and moved away from the colony ships. They were regrouping, forming a defensive line. They had come expecting easy prey. Instead, they found a predator. Don't celebrate yet, Tay warned his crew. They'll be back, and next time, they'll bring more ships. Hana, how long until the colony ships can jump to hyperspace? They need to repair their jump drives. At least 2 hours. Then we hold for 2 hours. Tay sat back in his chair. Sung, patch up what you can. Quan, reload everything. Minho, keep us ready to move. We're not done yet. The crew responded with affirmations. They were tired. Some were injured. The ship was damaged. But they weren't beaten. They were human, and humans didn't quit. Across space, Captain Thelos of the Velnari colony ships stared at his view screen in wonder. One human ship had saved them. 1 ship against 19. It should have been impossible. But he was learning something that the rest of the galaxy would soon understand. Humans didn't care about impossible. The calm didn't last long. Tay knew it wouldn't. He stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the sensors carefully. Around them, the Velnari colony ships worked desperately to repair their jump drives. They needed time. Time was exactly what the Krith wouldn't give them. Captain, new contacts, Hana said, her voice sharp. Jumping in now. 4 large signatures. Destroyer class. Tay's stomach tightened. Destroyers. The Krith weren't playing anymore. They had called for serious reinforcements. On the view screen, 4 massive ships appeared from hyperspace. Each one was 3 times the size of the horizon's edge. Behind them, the smaller raider ships regrouped, encouraged by the arrival of their bigger brothers. Well, Tay said quietly, that's not good. Minho let out a low whistle from the pilot's seat. Captain, maybe we should consider retreating. Those are serious ships. The colony vessels can't jump yet, Hana reminded them. They still need 90 minutes to repair their drives. Tay looked at his crew. He saw fear on some faces. That was natural. But he also saw determination. They knew what had to be done. We hold. Send a message to the Velnari ships. Tell them to work faster. Tell them we'll buy them the time they need. And if we can't hold? Quan asked quietly. Then we make them pay for every second. Tay sat in his command chair and gripped the armrests. All hands, this is the captain. Things just got harder. But we knew this job was dangerous when we took it. Remember what we're fighting for. Those colony ships have children on them, families, people who trusted us to protect them. We don't run. We don't quit. We hold the line. That's what humans do. Throughout the ship, the crew heard his words. In engineering, Sung and his team worked on the damaged systems with renewed focus. In the medical bay, Nari prepared more beds, knowing they would be needed. In the hangar, Yuna's Marines checked their weapons and armor, ready for the next fight. The Krith destroyers moved forward slowly. They were in no rush. They knew they had the advantage. The smaller raider ships spread out, forming a wide net. They were going to surround the horizon's edge, cut off any escape, then pound it into scrap metal. "Incoming transmission from the Krith flagship," the communications officer said. "Let's hear what they have to say," Tay replied. A face appeared on the screen. It was insectoid with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. The translation system worked to turn the clicks and hisses into words. "Human vessel, you fight well. We acknowledge your strength, but you are alone. You cannot win. Surrender now. Leave the prey to us. We will let you go in peace." Tay stood up. "I am Captain Tay of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. Your prey are innocent civilians under the protection of the Galactic Council. Leave now, or we will destroy you." The Krith commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You? Destroy us? We are 4 destroyers and 13 raiders. You are 1 damaged ship. Your threats are hollow, human." "Test me and find out," Tay said, then cut the transmission. Hana looked at him. "Sir, was that wise? Maybe we could have negotiated." "They don't negotiate, Hana. Species like the Krith only understand strength." "So we show them strength." Tai turned to the crew. "Prepare for combat. This is going to be bad, but we've handled bad before. Minho, I need you to fly like you've never flown before. Quan, make every shot count. Sung, keep us running no matter what." The Krith attacked. All 4 destroyers opened fire at once. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the ships. It was a storm of destruction, enough firepower to destroy a space station. Minho's hands flew across the controls. The horizon's edge twisted and turned, moving through the incoming fire with impossible grace. Most species couldn't survive the acceleration of these maneuvers. Their bodies would break under the strain. But humans had evolved on Earth, a heavy-gravity death world. Their bones were dense. Their muscles were strong. They could take punishment that would kill most aliens. Even so, some shots hit. The ship rocked hard. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. An explosion somewhere in the lower deck sent a shudder through the entire vessel. "Shields down to 40%, Hana shouted over the noise. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 5. "Seal those sections," Tay ordered. "Damage control teams, move." Throughout the ship, humans ran toward danger instead of away from it. It was instinctive. It was part of what made them different. They ran toward the breaches, toward the fires, toward the damaged systems. They worked in areas that were exposed to vacuum, using emergency suits. They repaired systems while explosions happened around them. In engineering, Sung watched his displays with growing concern. The reactor was running at 160%. The safety systems were screaming warnings at him, but he ignored them and pushed the engines even harder. "Come on, girl," he muttered to the ship. "Just hold together a little longer." On the bridge, Quan fired back at the Krith destroyers. Her missiles couldn't do much damage to their heavy armor, but she aimed for weak spots. Engine ports, weapon emplacements, sensor arrays. Every hit counted. Every bit of damage she could cause might slow them down. "Yuna, I need those raiders off our back," Tay said into the comm. "Already on it, Captain." Yuna and her Marines launched again, this time targeting the smaller raider ships that were trying to flank the horizon's edge. The assault pods crashed into enemy hulls, and the Marines poured inside. The fighting inside the Krith ships was brutal. The Marines moved through narrow corridors, their armor scraping against the walls. The Krith fought back with claws and acid weapons, but the Marines had something the Krith didn't expect. They had been trained on Earth, where they practice combat in every environment imaginable. Jungles, deserts, underwater, in zero gravity, in extreme heat and cold. This was just another hostile environment to them. A young Marine named Gina fought her way through a Krith raider. She was bleeding from a cut on her face, and her left arm wasn't working right. But she kept going, kept fighting. Pain was just information. It told her she was injured, but it didn't stop her. She planted charges on the enemy ship's engine core and moved to the extraction point. "Charges set," Gina reported. "Team evacuating now." The Marines made it back to their pods just before the explosions. One Krith raider blew apart from the inside. Another lost power and went dark. But there were still so many enemies. The horizon's edge was taking too much damage. Fires burned in 3 different sections. The medical bay was full of wounded. The shields were down to 20%, and the Krith destroyers kept coming closer, their weapons never stopping. "Captain, the Velnari ships report their jump drives are almost ready," Hana said. She had a cut above her eye, blood running down her face, but she didn't seem to notice. 30 more minutes. 30 minutes. It seemed like forever. Tay looked at his ship's status. They wouldn't last 30 minutes. Maybe 20, if they were lucky. "Sir, the lead destroyer is charging its main cannon," Quan warned. "That weapon could cut us in half." Tay made a decision. "Minho, plot a course directly at that destroyer. Maximum speed." "Sir?" Minho turned to look at him. "You heard me. We're going to ram it." The bridge went quiet for a moment. Then Hana understood. "If we're close enough, they can't use their main cannon without damaging themselves." "Exactly." Tay strapped himself into his chair. "And at close range, our weapons will be more effective against their armor. It's risky, but risky is our specialty." Minho finished, grinning. Course plotted, engaging. The horizon's edge turned and accelerated directly at the lead Krith destroyer. The enemy ship seemed surprised by the maneuver. It was probably used to enemies running away, not charging straight at it. The distance closed rapidly. The Krith destroyer fired everything it had, trying to stop the human ship. Energy beams scorched the horizon's edge's hull. Missiles exploded against the weakening shields. But Minho kept the ship on course, dodging what he could, tanking the hits he couldn't avoid. "Shields down!" Hana shouted. "We're taking hull damage!" "Keep going!" Tay commanded. They closed to point-blank range, so close that Tay could see the details of the enemy ship's hull plating, so close that the 2 ships almost touched. "Now, Quan! Everything we have!" Quan fired. At this range, the missiles hit before the Krith could even track them. They punched through the destroyer's armor and exploded inside. The human ship's energy weapons carved lines of destruction across the enemy hull. But the Krith destroyer fought back just as hard. Without shields, the horizon's edge was vulnerable. Weapons fire tore through the human ship's armor. Secondary explosions rippled through multiple decks. The lights on the bridge flickered. Somewhere in the ship, a support beam collapsed. A fire suppression system failed. A brave crew member died putting out a fire to save the others. But they were winning. Slowly, impossibly, they were winning. The Krith destroyer's weapons were going offline one by one. Its engines were sputtering. It was dying. "The other 3 destroyers are moving in," Hana warned. Tay's jaw tightened. They had killed one. But 3 more remained, and the horizon's edge was barely holding together. Then the sensors detected something new, something huge emerging from hyperspace. And Tay felt his hope die as he saw what it was. The Krith flagship was massive. It dwarfed everything else in space, 10 times the size of the horizon's edge, maybe more. Its hull was covered in weapons, hundreds of them. It emerged from hyperspace like a dark mountain, blocking out the stars. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, the crew stared in silence. Even Tay felt a moment of pure fear. They had barely survived fighting 4 destroyers. This thing could probably destroy them with a single shot. "Sir," Hana's voice was small, "that's a Dreadnought-class vessel. Our weapons can't even scratch that armor." The Krith flagship sent a transmission. The same insectoid commander appeared on screen, but this time he looked pleased. His mandibles clicked in what might have been satisfaction. "Human captain, you fought bravely, but this is the end. Surrender your vessel. Abandon the colony ships. Do this, and my flagship will let you go. You have 10 seconds to decide." Tay looked around his bridge. The crew was exhausted. Quan had burns on her arms from an electrical fire. Minho's face was covered in sweat and blood. Hana had wrapped a bandage around her head, but blood was seeping through. Every single person was injured in some way, but not one of them looked like they wanted to give up. "Sung!" Tay called down to engineering. "How's the ship?" Sung's voice came back, tired but steady. "Life support is failing on 3 decks. Weapons are at 30% capacity. Engines are, well, they're still running, but they shouldn't be. The reactor is screaming at me. I give us maybe one more big push before everything falls apart." "One more push," Tay repeated. He looked at Hana. "How long until the colony ships can jump?" 15 minutes. "Then we need to give them 15 minutes. Tay stood up from his chair. He looked at each member of his crew. "I know you're tired. I know you're hurt. I know the odds are impossible. But I also know that behind us are 4,000 people who will die if we fail. Children, families, people who have no one else to protect them except us." He paused, then smiled. "We're human. We're from Earth. Our whole planet tried to kill us for millions of years, and we survived. We thrived. We made it to the stars. And now some bugs think they can intimidate us? I don't think so." Quan laughed, a short, sharp sound. "So what's the plan, Captain? Ram that monster?" "Actually," Hana said slowly, "that's not the worst idea." Everyone turned to look at her. She pulled up a holographic display of the Krith flagship. "Look at its design. It's built for long-range combat. All those weapons are designed to destroy enemies from a distance. But if we could get inside its defensive perimeter, right up against the hull—" "Their own weapons couldn't target us without hitting themselves," Minho finished. "That's crazy enough to work. We'd never survive the approach," Quan pointed out. "They'll tear us apart before we get close." Tai was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then an idea formed. A terrible, beautiful idea. "We won't be trying to survive. Yuna, can you hear me?" "Yes, Captain." Yuna's voice came through from the Marine deck. "Tell me you have a plan." "My Marines are getting bored." "How many assault pods do we have left?" 50, same as last time." "Good. Here's what we're going to do." Tay explained his plan. As he talked, he watched the expressions on his crew's faces change from doubt to understanding to grim determination. It was insane. It would probably kill them all, but it might just work. "The Krith are hailing us again," the communications officer said. "They want our answer." "Give me a channel." Tay waited until the insectoid commander appeared on screen again. "This is Captain Tay. I have considered your offer." "And?" the Krith commander asked. "We refuse." Tay smiled coldly. "Come and take us if you can." He cut the transmission before the enemy could respond. "Minho, full speed at the flagship. Don't dodge, don't weave. Straight line. Fastest approach." "Sir." "They'll destroy us." "That's what we're counting on. Sung, I need every bit of power you can give to the forward shields. Everything. Shut down weapons, shut down life support in non-essential decks, drain the backup batteries. Everything goes to the forward shields." "That's suicide!" someone shouted. "No," Tay said firmly. "That's the distraction. Yuna, you and your Marines launch in 30 seconds. use the ship as cover. While the Krith are focused on destroying us, you fly your pods around and hit the flagship from the other side. Board it. Get inside. And then, Yuna asked, find their reactor core, overload it, blow that ship to pieces. There was silence on the comm for a moment. Then Yuna laughed. That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. I love it. Marines, you heard the captain. Get to the pods. We're about to make history or become it. The Horizon's edge accelerated toward the Krith flagship. Every eye on the enemy ship was probably watching them come. The human vessel looked like it was going to ram them again. The Krith weren't going to let that happen. They opened fire with every weapon they had. The space between the two ships filled with energy beams, missiles, and projectiles. It was more firepower than Tay had ever seen. The forward shields of the Horizon's edge glowed bright as they absorbed hit after hit after hit. Shields at 90%, Hana called out. 70%! 50! The ship shook so hard that crew members were thrown from their seats. Alarms blared. Fire suppression systems sprayed foam across sparking consoles. The lights dimmed. But behind the Horizon's edge, hidden in its sensor shadow, 50 assault pods launched silently. They curved around, using the human ship as a shield, then rocketed toward the Krith flagship from an unexpected angle. Shields at 20%. Captain, we're not going to make it. We don't need to make it, Tay said calmly. We just need to get close enough. Keep going. The Krith flagship poured everything into destroying the Horizon's edge. They didn't notice the small pods approaching from behind until it was too late. The pods crashed into the flagship's hull and tore through. Inside, Yuna and her Marines found themselves in a nightmare. The Krith flagship was massive, a maze of corridors and chambers. And it was full of enemy soldiers, thousands of them. Well, Yuna said as she checked her rifle, I always wanted a challenge. Teams, break into your groups. Remember the mission. Find the reactor. Everyone else, try to stay alive long enough to matter. The Marines split up and moved deeper into the ship. They fought through waves of Krith soldiers. The insectoids had the home advantage. They knew the layout. They had reinforcements. But the humans had something else. They had training from a death world. They had reflexes honed by millions of years of being both predator and prey. They had the will to win no matter the cost. A young Marine named Day held a corridor against 20 Krith soldiers while his team moved past. He was hit 3 times, but he kept fighting, kept shooting, kept holding the line, because that's what humans did. Another Marine, a woman named Rin, carried a wounded comrade on her back while still fighting. She dragged him through hostile territory, refusing to leave anyone behind. On the bridge of the Horizon's edge, the shields finally failed. The ship's armor began to vaporize under the Krith weapons fire. Sections of the hull were torn away. The ship was dying. Captain, we have to pull back, someone yelled. Not yet, Tay said. He watched the timer. Yuna and her Marines needed time. Just a little more time. The colony ships needed time. Just a little more time. The Horizon's edge continued forward, burning, breaking apart, but not stopping, not quitting. Deep inside the Krith flagship, Yuna's team found the reactor core. It was huge, pulsing with energy. Krith guards surrounded it, but the Marines fought through them. Yuna personally shot the control systems and began overriding the safety protocols. Captain, she called over the comm. I'm at the core. I can overload it. But, sir, there's no time to get everyone out. Once I start this, we have maybe 60 seconds before the whole ship explodes. Tay closed his eyes. He had known this might happen, had hoped it wouldn't, but hope wasn't enough. Yuna, can you evacuate any of your Marines? Some, not all. Sir, it's been an honor serving with you. Tay felt something break inside him, but his voice remained steady. The honor was mine. All of you. You're the bravest people I've ever known. Do it, Yuna. Finish the mission. Yes, sir. For Earth, For humanity. For the people we protect. Yuna's hands moved across the controls. Reactor overload initiated. All Marines, evacuate now. Move, move, move. The Marines ran. Some made it back to their pods and launched. Others didn't. They fought rearguard actions, holding off Krith soldiers so their comrades could escape. They sacrificed themselves with courage that would be remembered for generations. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Tay watched the sensors. Hana, get those colony ships out of here, now! But sir, now! That's an order! Hana's hands shook as she sent the signal. The Velnari colony ships jumped to hyperspace one by one, disappearing to safety. 4,000 lives saved, and deep inside the Krith flagship, the reactor reached critical mass. The Krith flagship exploded. It wasn't a small explosion. It was the death of a dreadnought, the detonation of a reactor core that could power a small city. Light brighter than a sun-filled space for a moment. The shock wave expanded outward, catching the 3 remaining Krith destroyers and the raider ships. They were thrown aside like toys, tumbling through space, their hulls cracking. On the bridge of the dying horizon's edge, the crew watched in awe. Then the shock wave hit them too. The human ship, already broken and barely functional, was tossed backward. More systems failed. More sections lost atmosphere, but somehow, impossibly, the core of the ship held together. "Damage report," Tay said, his voice hoarse. Hana coughed, trying to clear smoke from her lungs. "Life support failing. Engines are dead. Weapons are gone. Sir, we're dead in space. We're running on emergency power only." "The colony ships?" "All away. All safe. They made it to hyperspace before the explosion." Tay felt relief wash through him. 4,000 lives saved. That was what mattered. He slumped in his chair. "Well, we did it? At what cost?" Minho asked quietly. He had tears on his face. "Yuna, her Marines, how many did we lose?" "I'm getting status reports from the assault pods," Hana said, checking her console. 23 pods made it away before the explosion. That's 23 Marines out of 50. Sir, the other 27... She didn't need to finish. 27 Marines had died inside that ship. 27 brave soldiers who had charged into impossible odds to save people they had never met. 27 heroes. "Captain, the remaining Krith ships are retreating," Quan reported. "They're jumping to hyperspace. They're running." "Let them run," Tay said. "Let them tell their people what happens when you attack the innocent while humans are watching." The bridge was quiet except for the sounds of failing systems and emergency alarms. The crew sat in their damaged stations, exhausted, injured, but alive. They had won. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. "Sir, I'm picking up new contacts," Hana said suddenly. "Multiple ships jumping in. It's the Galactic Council fleet." On the view screen, dozens of ships appeared. Cruisers, destroyers, support vessels, the full might of the Council's response force. They were 4 hours early. They must have pushed their engines beyond normal limits when they heard about the attack. A transmission came through. "Human Vessel Horizon's Edge, this is Admiral Kelmar of the Council Fleet. We received word of your engagement." "What is your status?" Tay stood up, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Admiral, this is Captain Tay. The colony ships are safe. The Krith fleet has been destroyed or driven off, but we've taken heavy damage. We have casualties. We need immediate assistance." "Acknowledged, Captain Tay. Medical ships are on their way to you. We're also detecting multiple assault pods in the area. Are those your people?" "Yes, sir. My Marines. They completed their mission." "Understood. We'll recover them all. Captain Tay, I'm also receiving reports from the Velnari colony ships. They're telling me one human vessel held off an entire Krith raid fleet alone. Is this accurate?" Tay looked at his crew. At Hana with her bandaged head. At Quan with her burned arms. At Minho, still gripping the controls even though the engines were dead. At all of them. No, sir. It wasn't one ship. It was one crew. One human crew who refused to let innocent people die. Over the next hours, council ships swarmed around the horizon's edge. Medical teams beamed aboard, treating the wounded. Engineers assessed the damage and shook their heads in disbelief that the ship was still in one piece. Recovery teams located all 23 assault pods and brought the Marines back. But there were 27 pods that didn't launch. 27 Marines who died as heroes. The Council fleet observed a moment of silence for them, broadcasting it across all frequencies. It was unprecedented. The entire response fleet, hundreds of ships, going quiet to honor human sacrifice. 3 days later, Tay stood before the Galactic Council itself. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They all watched him with expressions ranging from respect to fear to wonder. Captain Thelos of the Velnari was there too. He had insisted on speaking first. Honored council members, I am here to testify about what I witnessed. My colony fleet was attacked by the Krith. We called for help, knowing no one would arrive in time. But one human ship came. One ship against impossible odds. They didn't have to fight. They could have waited for backup. But Captain Tay and his crew chose to protect us. They chose to fight. Thalos's voice grew emotional. They lost 89 crew members, saving 4,000 people they had never met. They destroyed a Krith dreadnought and drove off an entire raid fleet. And when I tried to thank Captain Tay, do you know what he said? He said, "We were just doing our job." As if risking everything for strangers was routine. As if sacrifice was expected. The council chamber was silent. Then another species representative spoke. But surely this level of aggression, this willingness to die in combat, is this not dangerous? Are humans not exactly the kind of Deathworld species we should fear? Tay stepped forward. He was in his dress uniform, cleaned up but still showing signs of the battle. He had a scar on his face now that would never fully heal. You call our world a death world like it's a curse. You see our scars and our strength and you're afraid. I understand that. We're strong because Earth made us strong. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, weather, even the plants were dangerous. We should have died out. But we didn't. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of different species. We survived because we learned to work together, because we protected the weak in our tribes, because we developed compassion alongside our strength. Yes, we're warriors. Yes, we're dangerous. But that danger is pointed at those who would harm the innocent. We don't conquer. We protect. That's what it means to be human. An ambassador from a peaceful species spoke up. But the cost. So many of your people died. They died as heroes, Tay said firmly. Every single one of them made a choice. They could have refused. They could have stayed safe. But they didn't. Because being human means standing up even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when you know you might not survive. Silence filled the chamber again. Then slowly, one representative stood. Then another. Then more. Within moments, the entire Galactic Council was standing, a show of respect rarely given to anyone. 6 months later, the Horizon's Edge had been rebuilt. Sung had supervised the repairs personally, incorporating new technology and keeping the old fighting spirit. The ship was stronger now, faster, better armed. The crew had changed too. Some had left, unable to continue after what they experienced. But new crew members had joined, inspired by the story. And the Velnari had sent volunteers. 3 Velnari engineers now worked alongside Sung. 2 Velnari medical officers assisted Nari. Captain Thalos had requested to join as the diplomatic officer. "I want to learn from you," he had told Tay. "I want to understand what makes humans so willing to protect others." Yuna had survived. Though she had been the last to escape the exploding flagship, she still commanded the Marines, But now she trained soldiers from other species, too. They came from across the galaxy to learn human combat techniques, human tactics, human philosophy. "Why do you fight?" a young alien Marine asked her one day during training. Yuna thought about the 27 Marines she had lost. She thought about the faces of the Velnari children she had saved. "We fight because someone has to," she said simply. "We fight because the strong should protect the weak. We fight because it's right. That's the human way." Now, Tay stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Horizon's edge. Hana was at her station, Quan at weapons, Minho at the helm. Sung was down in engineering. Nari was in medical. The crew was ready. A distress signal came through. Another colony under attack, another cry for help. The Council fleet was 8 days away. Hana looked at Tay. "Sir?" Tay smiled. It was a hard smile, a warrior's smile, but underneath it was compassion. It was the smile of someone who had seen the worst of the universe and still chose to fight for the best of it. "Plot a course," he ordered. "Maximum speed. Let's go save some lives." "All hands, this is the captain," Tay announced over the ship-wide comm. "We've received a distress call. People need our help. It's going to be dangerous. It's probably going to hurt. But that's what we do. That's what humans do. And anyone who stands beside us, who fights beside us, becomes part of that legacy." The ship jumped to hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light. Somewhere in the darkness, people were scared and alone, hoping someone would come, and humanity was already on the way. Because in the vast emptiness of space, among all the species of the galaxy, humans had learned something important, something that came from their Deathworld heritage, something that made them special. Strength without compassion was just brutality, but strength used to protect others. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. The Horizon's edge raced through hyperspace toward danger, toward the unknown, toward people who needed help. The crew was ready, the ship was ready, and the galaxy was learning that when you called for help, when you sent out a distress signal into the darkness, you might just get an answer from Earth. And that answer would never give up, would never back down, would never stop fighting for what was right, because that was what Deathworlders did. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves, and they would never ever stop.